So we are back at Camas Meadow near the intersection of Wrights Lake Road and the road that goes to Ice House Reservoir. And it is now July 20th, so about 3 weeks since our last visit, which was on June 30th. And we're here to see if there's anything else that's come in bloom. And already we've seen some things. And to explore some more. And here is one-sided wintergreen, Orthilia secunda. Another common name for this is side bells because the flowers are on just one side of the inflorescence stem. And this is another member of the lovely heath family, the Ericaceae, which is incredibly diverse. And so many plants, including ones that are parasitic, ones that are photosynthetic like this one, and a variety of different flower shapes. And they are anything from herbaceous all the way up to shrubs. They're a really incredible family. So the flowers of these little side bells, or one-sided wintergreen, are not quite open yet. So when we saw them back in late June, sorry, can't get that one in focus. It looked to us like they were just in bud then, and now they're still just barely starting to open up. So maybe a couple more weeks, or maybe one more week. And here we have a member of the equally wonderful family, the carrot family, the Apiaceae. This is Gray's lovage, and that is Ligusticum grayi, so G-R-A-Y-I, however we should pronounce that. And there's quite a bit of it right here. It has the typical twice compound umbel inflorescence, tiny little white flowers, which are very common in the family, and these nicely finely divided leaves. And this is really common in the Sierras, and according to Michael Graff, the roots were used as food by the native Californians. Now here we have Bolender's mock dandelion, and that's for obvious reasons because of this lovely inflorescence is very dandelion-like. But it's a much darker, well, yeah, deeper. I'm going to say deeper yellow that kind of goes to orange as it ages, like this one over here. And we find it here at Camas Meadow with the moss. And you can see here's moss down here. There's a really wet, spongy kind of ground. Moss, and I'm also seeing the leaves of primrose monkeyflower. Ah, there is a primrose monkeyflower right here. Yes, so the primrose monkeyflower is Erythranthe primuloides. One of the differences between Erythranthe and Diplacus in the monkeyflowers now is that Erythranthe, their pedicel is longer than the calyx. And here, right at the beginning of the wet part of the meadow, we have Bolender's yumpa, which is Periduridia bolanderi. And according to Michael Graff, the roots were used by the Native Americans because of their sweet, nutty flavor. And the seeds are also edible. They can be used for seasoning, I guess, kind of like fennel or anise. And the word yumpa is the Shoshone word for the plant. We're stopping here because we just love this little skirt of shrubs that is at the base of this lodgepole pine. And there's that lovely flaky bark of the lodgepole pine, which I also love. Somebody said it's corn chip. or no, cornflakes, I guess. Cornflakes bark. And so we have several different little plants that here at the base. And this kind of grayish thing with the smaller leaves is blue elderberry. So Vaccidium uliginosum. And then we also have just a little bit of this gray-leaved Sierra willow, which is a low shrub, and that is Salix oristura.
Paleo caught my eye.
Here at the edge of the real boggy spot that we visited in our first trip back in June 30th, now we've got some willow herbs blooming, and I believe this is Epilobium ciliatum. Beautiful big flowers with a little notch, and also a stigma that is well exerted, which means it's sticking out well. So we have a lovely spot here with a lot of the Senecio triangularis. And we also have some paintbrush, Castanea miniata, which we often find in wettish places, not just in wet meadows, but also along stream banks in the Sierra. And some more of the willow herb right here. And what's cool is on the Senecio, this butterweed, we've got spittlebugs, which are actually, the spittle is made by little leaf hoppers. Isn't that cool? There's a lot of them on here. Of course, we've also got a ton of mosquitoes that I'm waving away. And a common name for this Senecio triangularis is arrow-leaved because of the shape of the leaves, which is where the triangularis comes from. But they are arrow-shaped, arrowhead-shaped, and so arrow-leaved groundsel. Groundsel is another common name for Senecios in general. And our lovely white-flowered orchid, the white-flowered, oh, so this is the rain orchid, Plantanthera leucostachys. Still here, and there's quite a bit of it still in bloom. And here we have a saxifrage. This is Saxifraga oregana, the bog saxifrage, which makes sense because it's growing in a really wet, boggy place. And here's the cool thing, I don't know if you can see this with this focusing, which is not terrific here, but the pistils are kissing, they're facing each other, and you can see the two tiny little stigmas at the top. Hopefully you can see that. Oh, maybe I can do this. Oh. Zoom in a little bit. And then the leaves are down here. They're mostly basal. Yeah, so here's a little bit better of the leaf. Is this longish leaf has a little bit of waviness or toothiness on the edge. Kind of a plain leaf, but you can see that's like right down there at the base, and that the flowering stem has no leaves at all. And here is the fruit of the blue camas, that the plant that the meadow, Camas Meadow, is named after. Pretty cool. This lovely little three-lobed fruit that will be a capsule and pop open when the seeds are ready to be dispersed. So here is that one-sided wintergreen again. And these are flowers are a little bit further along. We can actually see the stigma You can appreciate these lovely little flowers. There we go. And here is little elephant's head. And that's because the flowers sometimes look like they have a little elephant's trunk. That's a little more obvious on its relative of the big or giant elephant's head. But this is just as lovely. This is Pedicularis atolans, little elephant's head. And you can see it's kind of yarrow kind of leaves. I'll remind you of yarrow. And we see that kind of leaf in the Pedicularis as a genus. And Pedicularis is actually partially parasitic, a hemiparasite, and hence it belongs to the broomrape family, the Orobanchaceae. Here's the yellow flower spot. We've got 3 different kinds of yellow flowers right here. We have the what Gail is calling mimprim, used to be Mimulus primuloides, which is now the Erythranthe primuloides. So the primrose monkey flower, got that being yellow. And then we have the Bollander's mock dandelion being yellow. Lots of that being yellow. But we have something else being yellow. What we saw in June over here in this lovely little bog is yellow-eyed grass, Cicericium. And here, right in this little streamlet, is growing a really cool fungus. This is called matchstick fungus. Can you guess why? Because they look like little matchsticks. And I don't remember the scientific name for these guys, but I learned it from the John Muir Laws Sierra Nevada Field Guide book. So look it up in there. So here is Gray's cinquefoil. There are 2 cinquefoils that are similar to this because they have similar leaves. So here are the leaves right here. This one is Gray's because that central leaflet has relatively few teeth on it, or lobes, somewhere close to 7, whereas flabellifolia, which is called a fanfoil or fan-leaved cinquefoil, or Mount Rainier cinquefoil, that has more teeth on its central leaflet. But this is Gray's, so this is just Potentilla grayi. And we find these, of course, in lovely meadows. And here we have alpine aster in the meadow. This has linear basal leaves and a flowering stem or peduncle that is hairy toward the top. This used to be Aster alpiginus. It is now Oreostoma alpiginum. So in the meadow proper, we have all this lovely grass. This is Calamagrostis, Calamagrostis canadensis. So, common name for Calamagrostis canadensis is blue joint, and Calamagrostis, a common name, is reed grass. Gail and I want to call it meadow grass. What do you think? And here is a tiny little grass. This is Muhlenbergia richardsonus, so Richard's muley. Really tiny little thing with tiny little inflorescences and tiny little spikelets and tiny little leaves. Likes to grow up in the high country. I'm sorry, it's Richardson's muley because the epithet is richardsonus. Oh, and the meadow is just full of these alpine asters, which are being visited by lots of bees and hoverflies and butterflies, and full of the yumpah, the Bollinger's yumpah. And then the corn lily is kind of fading. It's kind of at the end of its time. And here is our monkshood, Aconitum columbianum. And remember that this is in the buttercup family, the Ranunculaceae. And it has a flower that's kind of similar to Delphinium, larkspur, but it has this lovely spur that is shaped like a hood. There we go. Hence monk's hood. And let's see if I get that. There we go. Like a little cap on the flower. And it, like Delphinium, like larkspur, is also toxic, so don't eat it. They have similar fruits, too, to the larkspur. And let's see, get this fruit in focus. Come on, focus, focus. And we'll try again. Does not want to get in focus. There we go, that's better. It has a three-parted fruit, and so you'll have three little follicles. It'll come apart, and then each follicle will break open along one little suture line. It's just a lovely tall plant that you see in wet meadows and along stream banks up in the Sierra. So here we have alpine lily, Lilium parvum. And we've got buds on the top of the inflorescence, so we have flowers yet to come. And we have some gorgeous open flowers. Let's see if I can get this nicely in focus. There we go. There's another flower down here. And there are a couple more plants over this way. Here's some more of the Lilium parvum. Oh, it's just so gorgeous in here. And then I'm just going to lift this up. And as we pass by the Elamis glaucus, the blue wildlife, in back there in the shadows, let's see if I can get this. In the shadows, there's some more of the alpine lily, and there's some corn lily and some lovage. And way in the back there, there's some of the big leaf lupin, Lupinus polyphyllus. Lovely little spot right here on the edge of the meadow, right where it meets up with the forest. So here is a very large polygonum. Gail and I have always called this giant knotweed because it's really tall. This can get up to 8 feet tall, apparently. This is Polygonum phytolaceifolia. Phytolaceifolia. And in Whedon and also in Graff, they call this alpine knotweed because it's up in the high country, which makes sense. I remember the first time I saw this was at Wright's Lake, near the parking lot. And also, there's a larkspur, Delphinium. Not sure which one this is, but we'll try to figure it out. That's a very large basal leaf. So this larkspur we think may be Delphinium natalianum. And it is in the forest a ways in from the meadow. So we found this beautiful mushroom of Amanita muscaria. Is that not too gorgeous? Don't eat it.